she returned back to Eugene Springfield and began working for the municipal court in 2009. Judge, and I had to ask him this because I want to make sure I was saying it right, Tierney is our presiding judge at the Springfield Municipal Court and has held the position since August of 2021. He's originally from Nevada, but has been in Lane County since 2015 and is a vocal proponent for restorative justice, in addition to having previously served as a deputy district attorney assigned to Lane County's adult treatment court. So without further ado, I'd like to have Aaron and Judge Tierney come up and start our program. Okay. Okay.
Thank you all for having us. We're so excited to be here today to explain our new adult drug treatment court that we're calling the Springfield Municipal Adult Rehabilitation and Treatment Court, or SMART. And it's a great program that is supported by a lot of data over several decades. And so we're just here to talk to you about what we're doing.
We're gonna go through a few slides. We'll try to be as interactive as we can. We encourage questions. And so Mr. Jordan can get eating. We're gonna ask him to speak first. I knew Mr. Jordan back when I was the treatment court DA, and we've grown in our professional lives since then, and he's gonna talk to you about his journey. His journey is unique, and maybe other people in our community will be like him, but he's a shining he's a shining example of what we hope comes out of this program. And I'd like to introduce you to Josh Jordan.
Oh, some of you guys have heard my story before, and I apologize. My name is Joshua Jordan. I'll save the wonderful stuff for the end. So I was raised homeless from the time I was 6 years old. My mom got her third DUI out of the state of Washington and decided to raise her twin boys hitchhiking around the country. I've been to Nevada, and it's a beautiful state. But so I traveled everywhere from Montana. My mom tried to take me to these places that were better than just on the streets. So I went to the Grand Canyon, Yellowstone, Grand Teton. She tried to say that we were homeschooled and took us all these places for our education. Maybe Eugene. My mom was a hippie, and so there was a rainbow gathering out of Prineville, Oregon. And so we went there and then came here afterwards. And I lived in Amazon Park in the woods. And so my mom was an alcoholic and raised me to, well, what it was like, I wanted her love. And so she loved alcohol. And then so I knew that to get my mom's attention, I would have to drink as well. And by the time I was 13 years old, her alcoholism got so bad that she was living with the low bottom, shopping cart pushing bums, for lack of a better term right now. And so me and my twin brother pretty much raised each other, and it was like the late 90s. Skateboarding and hacky sacking was really big, and graffiti, and so that's kind of what me and my brother got into. And so we started criminal activity at a young age. I like to say that I was never really given an opportunity at a real lifestyle. That is a lie. There were several opportunities. I went to alternative school and got my GED. I could have, went to college. From that. Instead, I went to juvenile prison with the McLaren and Riverbend, Hildart. Got out 18 months later, got my first job and my first apartment. But I was never taught basic life skills, and so I ended up losing that apartment after 3 months, and went back to what I knew best, which was drugs and homelessness. And so my own alcoholism became more progressive. um, In and out of the judicial system. I kind of hit a bottom when I was 26 years old and my alcoholism was literally killing. I couldn't hold down food, my liver was swollen, and I was still homeless. I was living under a bridge. And so I did what anybody in their sane right mind would do. And so I switched to heroin. I began to use heroin from the time I was 26 to the time I was 32. And then I went to Wayne County Jail, probably the 20th or 30th time. I knew all the deputies by name. They knew me. But something was different. And I said, don't let me out until I get treatment for it. And I did 22 days in there. And at the time they were running felony possession, 10 days concurrent, right? So I stayed in there 12 extra days so I could get treatment for it. And I would like to say that I was sober after I got released, but 2 weeks later, I started using again. You know, that big book of Alcoholics Anonymous says that the disease is cunning, baffling, and powerful. And boy, is that true. So I was sleeping behind a taco stand right next to Lucky's Tavern in Eugene. And in the middle of the night, one night, a college kid, probably 2 or 3 in the morning, he urinated on me. And I was withdrawing so bad that I couldn't even do anything or go fight for anything. And that morning, I came into treatment court and I said I needed something different. So I was already assessed at level 3.5 for residential, and it was a miracle a residential bed opened up in Ontario, Oregon at Lifeways. And I stayed the whole duration, 3 months, and since then, I haven't had a drink or a drug. May 21st of 2018 is my sobriety date. Almost a year after I graduated treatment court, I call it God, but what happened was they called me and they said, how would you like to come work for us? Judge Tierney, he would always be an advocate for me and said like, oh, when you graduate, maybe you could try peer support. And so I already put those feelers out there and I was doing a lot of work in the 12-step community and with sponsoring people. And I didn't know how good I would do at being a peer support specialist, but I guess I did pretty well because almost a year afterwards, they promoted me to be a substance use counselor for emergence. And I was a counselor for 2 years and then I got promoted to being a peer support supervisor. And I only had that position for maybe 7 months or something. And then I got promoted again to site supervisor. So now I am the supervisor. I have one boss and that's Mr. Jason Tran over there. And I'm the supervisor for the treatment center that offered me second opportunity at life and gave me life beyond my wildest dreams. I have a 17-month-old son, my firstborn. His name is Lincoln. He is absolutely adorable. I love him. I'm one of those dads where my entire phone is just full of pictures of him and I show them to everybody, right? And I'm sure my coworkers are tired of seeing pictures of him. But, and I'm getting married in July to the woman of my dreams. And, you know, I didn't even drive or learn how to operate a vehicle until I was 35 years old, right? The beautiful thing is that my son is never gonna have to endure the trauma that I have. Me and my fiance were laying in bed with him the other night. And he was in between us and he was just playing and just full of love. And she turned to me and she said, isn't this a miracle? Like this child has attunement from both of its parents and his love. And, you know, she comes from a background too, where like this baby has love and nourishment that neither of us have. And I owe it all to recovery. I would like to say I owe it to Mr. Kearney, but, I don't. I admit the word. There are people that had faith and hope in me, before I ever did. You know, they say they get a higher power in recovery. And for the longest time, my higher power was the judge, right? They told me what I could put in my body, where I could sleep, what I can do, and I listened. And I had proper guidance, and I have a home group, and I carry the message that alcoholics and addicts, they're still suffering, and recovery is not only my job, but it is my life. And I love every bit of my journey, and I'm glad that I get to share it here with you guys today, so thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing your story. It's really, I think, impactful to show what can happen when we invest in these sorts of programs and invest in these participants. So I'm gonna go through now just a little information about our current program and what we're doing, kind of where it came from. So we were given grant funds in October of 2023 from the Federal Department of Justice, Bureau of Justice Assistance. The city received grant funds to cover 4 years of implementation and development of an adult drug treatment court program. We joined more than 4,000 treatment courts nationwide. This is not something new. This is a decades-old program supported by science. And we're just now implementing one in our municipal court for misdemeanor level charges. Our court does serve as the main court for all misdemeanors committed in the city of Springfield. So any sort of DUIs, assault cases, thefts, all of that comes through our court and has since the beginning. In 2002, prior to implementing this program or even filing for the grant, the judge asked Emergence to come do a test screening of individuals in the Springfield jail. And that screening found above the 20 people who were screened, 16 met the criteria for high risk and high need, which we'll describe what that means a little bit later. And of those 20, a few of them denied use at all. So everyone who did not deny use was screened as being high risk and high need. We also started developing relationships with who would be our partners, including Emergence for Treatment, the Springfield City Prosecutor's Office, defense attorneys, and the Springfield Police Department. After receiving that grant, we began receiving referrals in January of 2024. Since then, we've screened. We screened over 30 individuals since January. We've enrolled 14 participants, which means we have 14 individuals in the Springfield Municipal Court who weren't receiving these services before, who are now receiving this level of service. The most common reason right now for non-enrollment is failure to appear. So that's something that we're going to be working on in the future. And we've got more on the way. We've got someone who might be initiating and opting in as a participant today, and multiple more people who were picked up from jail this morning to try to become participants in this program. So who are those participants? First and foremost, we're all members of the Springfield and Lake County communities. They're members of your families, of your friends' families. They live and work or have grown up here in Springfield and Eugene. There currently are 8 women and 6 men who are enrolled, ages 22 to 51. They're all at a significant risk for committing new crimes or not completing less intensive dispositions. Most of them were already unsuccessful elsewhere or here on traditional adult probation. They're getting new charges in Springfield or elsewhere. They're not addressing the substance use and they're not meeting their other obligations, such as recruit or attending the victim impact panel. They also have all been screened to have moderate severe substance use disorders. One thing that we do know about substance use disorder is that if there's an early onset or a long term of use, it's a lot harder for people to get through to that first level of recovery. Our average age of first substance use for our participants is 12. The earliest one is 5 years old. Many of them have had multiple previous treatment attempts, but no follow-up with a court watching their progress. Many of them also have high social service needs that puts them at risk for recidivism, meaning they don't have stable or safe housing. They don't have a good education or employment, and a lot of them have children or were themselves involved in the child welfare system. So the charges that we're talking about in this court specifically, of our participants, remember there are 14 participants. Between those, there are 18 DUIs. 6 of our participants have 2 or more DUIs in our court. We also have participants with property crimes and person crimes, and other pending criminal cases in other courts, including felony DUI, or felony theft charges. So besides the participants receiving the services, though, who could benefit from a program like this is you. Anyone who pays taxes, drives on the streets, lives in the city of Springfield. Because research by All Rise shows that, and All Rise is the national organization that has the treatment court standards that we follow. They show that treatment courts can produce benefits of up to $6,000 per participant, and return $27 for every dollar invested. That's in the community, that's not directly to the court. That means less traffic accidents, less jail visits, less emergency room visits. Because there are people receiving services and supports that will get them to the point where they no longer need those additional costs. And every family is touched by the addiction crisis. Could include your family, your friends' families. 5 of our participants have children or are expecting children. And like Mr. Gordon said, hopefully those are children that won't have to touch that criminal or that child welfare system. Will be reunited with their families. So I'm gonna turn it over to Judge Tierney to talk a little more about what a treatment court program does for the participants.
Thank you. So I just was thinking about how I was gonna start this off. So we live in the city of Springfield, and Mr. Jordan's a great example. If you live in the city of Springfield, unless you commit a crime that meets the sentencing guidelines, you're gonna come back to the city of Springfield. So for people like who in the past, for Mr. Jordan, we know they're coming back. So what's Springfield hadn't passed was we had a jail system, and that was it. If you're arrested in Springfield, you go in an 8x8 box, you come out, you're not in a better position, you don't have money, you don't have your license, you don't have treatment. So when I became presiding, I was working through what our hurdles were so we could make our community safe. And this was one of the options, because what a treatment court does is we can really identify the people that are highest risk, highest need, meaning that they have criminogenic activity and they have a substance use, and we can make them go to treatment. At treatment, they'll have supervision. We have a dedicated probation officer. We don't have any Lane County here today. We have a dedicated probation officer who does home visits, make sure that can go get them. They don't come to court, and monitors the people that are surrounding them. Mandatory treatment, emergency 13 hours a week with random UAs, so they have to be on top of it. If they don't do it, they're sanctioned. We start increasing. I'll talk about sanctions in just a minute. And all of our team members are trained. We have to go to trainings every year. It's a lot of fun. We get to bond, we get to enjoy each other, and because team dynamics reduce recidivism. We do court once a week for all participants, and as you are in the court longer, you come to court less. We want to make sure that we're increasing the pressure so that they follow through with what the requirements are. It's very important that individuals know their sanction. If you don't do a UA, you're gonna get a sanction. You don't come to court, you're gonna get a sanction. And actually, data is really, what's the right word, Tom? Opposite, I guess, that if someone knows, like, I'm gonna use this with my young daughter. You don't do this, you're gonna get grounded. But if someone knows that what the sanction is, they're less likely to do it. And I thought that was all shocking. So the participants know, they lie to me, they're going to jail for 3 days. If they commit a new crime, they're more than likely going to jail. And if they don't come to court, something is going to happen of that nature. So we like to do structured sanctions. We're really working on the written word right now, making them write essays, making them think internally about how they're going to change.
You were talking about incentives too.
Yeah, and the key to that is you also have incentives. So I have to become very positive. Fortunately, very Irish. So really, positivity is something, famine really impacted all of us. And that was 150 years ago. So working on being more positive. And my jokes are getting better. Mr. Dahlstrom, the city prosecutor thinks they're getting better. He's saying no, but it's actually yes. I'm trying.
For individuals that meet all of their obligations for the whole week, so they make every UA test, they make every individual appointment, they come to court on time, they are on what we call the 100% board, meaning they met 100%. They get their name up on the screen in front of everybody in court, and they get to spin a wheel. We have some prizes for them, and that's been really amazing to watch that sort of positive interaction with the court. Many of our participants have never had a positive interaction with a judge or an attorney, and so we're changing that narrative.
That's one thing we're also hoping out of the city club meeting is that we're reaching out to our city business organizations, because we need to get more incentives so we can encourage people. Right now, we send people to Target if they're allowed to, or we give them gift cards or movies. Movies are very important.
Popular. very popular.
Starbucks or Dutch Brothers, so that's really, we're trying to reach out, so everybody knows this is a benefit for the community, reduces crime.
What's next?
So now this just, it's a lot of information here, but basically it's a build up. So at the end, you're not gonna graduate unless you have a job. You're not gonna graduate unless you're sober and safe. You need to have 90 clean days. You need to have followed through with all your treatment requirements. And if you want to drive, we want to make sure you have your license. So you're gonna start in the beginning and we're gonna build you up. So at the end, you're in a position where you can be an alumni and come back. But each phase is unique and quite a lot of information in it. The quickest you can do the program is in a year. I think during my time, maybe 3 people out of the hundreds we had did it in a year. But what that actually tells us is we picked the wrong person. We need people that need more treatment rather than someone who can coast through. But we don't have anybody currently in that sphere. Phase 2, most of our people are in phase 2 or phase 1. Hopefully this week we'll have someone go to phase 3. Just we're gonna get there eventually, but this is something that we're just gonna keep adding people to. And it's just a background on data. Data says this program works. Everything we do is evidence-based. Mr. Dahlstrom makes an argument. If it's not evidence-based, he's gonna lose. If the defense makes an argument, they're gonna lose if it's not evidence-based. That's how we go through with the program. So everything, the answers are almost always already known. So we really believe in this program. The data supports it. And every week, we're just out there searching for the right participants.
The first treatment court in the nation was implemented in Miami in the 1980s, and since then, there's been a lot of research about the effects of different points of the program, what's the best practice in terms of who should be involved in your team, and what's the best practice in terms of the treatment level that people should be receiving, so we're following all of those best practices.
So our goal is to affect our participants, reduce recidivism, and to provide an option so that we aren't using this humongous jail we have just for the purpose of incarceration. They're going to be released. We want to impact families. We want to put them in a better position when they started. And that's our goal. So as long as I'm here, that's going to be our goal. And we're proud of our efforts. Hopefully everybody can come to graduation in approximately 14 months. We'll have our first group and we're pretty excited for that. I'm already working on my speeches.
Need that much time to prepare.
All right, lots of partners. Mr. Dahlstrom's here. Ms. Oulette is actually, she was unable to come. TNP's not here. Ms. Cochran works for QRA. She's already part of our DUI program. So a lot of people already know her. We have a specific SPD officer, Ms. Cardwell. Works for emergence and myself and Aaron. We are excited for questions. We have the answers. Young man? Sure.
Young man. So, Josh, you brought up the point about not having life skills, and certainly, as I look at this, I look at it from a parenting model, and I think that's pretty effective in terms of having constant rules, consequences, and being able to learn. So the life skills, how does that kind of come in? Because with no parenting, and none of that, how are you able to kind of bring those in?
So I'm gonna call on our collaborators because my expertise is in the judicial part.
Yeah.
Treatment's expertise is guiding them to have a pro-social relationship. Maybe Mr. Tran or Miss Jessica like to jump in and do some public speaking.
Sure. So our goal at treatment is to really work on their cognition, their behavior. Giving them constant curriculum of how to use critical thinking, how to reflect on their past behaviors, try to adjust them in a pro-social way in the future. And so through different curriculum and just repetition, we give them the ability to practice those social skills with each other out in their community over time. And so hopefully that changes their behavior beyond being in the program. That is the idea. And it is really through that evidence-based curriculum that we're using. So we do a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy. We implemented moral recognition therapy, MRT, which is for this specific population that has lengthy criminal history, criminal involvement, legal history specifically. So we try to really tailor it to our clients to hopefully have the best outcomes that we can. Yeah, and so it's just through that daily interaction with us and the continuous support from court treatment. Just the community in general, and hopefully, we can help push them in the right direction to, ultimately change their behaviors in the future, so.
We also have a case manager, Tanya, who's here with us, who helps them fill out the petitions to be able to graduate through the phases. And in the later phases, there are requirements in order to phase up to fill out a personal budget. Have safe and stable housing, which could mean paying rent at a sober living facility. And so there's kind of these steps throughout the whole 1 year to gain skills throughout the process. And sometimes the first skill is just coming to court every day or every week. And just kind of following that schedule, learning how to put things in a calendar and just starting from wherever that participant is, meeting them where they are.
That's your question.
Yeah, I mean, you got a lot of mentors and case managers and things like that tracking that, so involved in, and you're really quite impressed that you're able to do that.
And Emergence has a lot of peer support, which there are people who have gone through this process themselves and have that lived experience to help support the new participants. And hopefully, once we have a graduation, then we'll have some alumni who can come back and help us who have been part of our specific program.
So one for you.
I noticed there was more women than men. Are you collaborating with child welfare the way that Lane County does?
We sure are. Miss Series is gonna be our advocate. We're working on it, getting her to come in to assist, and we do have, I think everyone in the program has DHS, there's some DHS involvement. So it's the next step, building a program, having the time slots so they can come assist, so we can make sure those mothers and fathers have the additional support that DHS provides.
Can you talk a little bit more about the funding, the funds that you got in October 2023? Were those one-time funds? How long do they last?
So
What?
it's a grant that is for across 4 years. So from October of 2023 through September of 2027 is when we'll finish spending those funds. We've budgeted out across 4 years. Those funds help us. The city also had to match a portion of that to fund the whole program. Most of the match is in the judge's time and my time. And those funds are used to help cover travel and training. They're used to help cover our prosecution and defense attorney time, and they're used to help cover the cost of the dedicated probation officer. And so that's kind of where we're spending those funds at this time.
So your follow-up question is, how do we make this last? There's a lot of continuing treatment court grants that we're gonna go after very diligently. I know that Lane County got 1.8 million last year, despite continuing to follow up. And we'll be able to follow up when the data shows we're working. So we need to have these couple of years of really success, so we can show the government we need the money to keep this going. But there are a number of opportunities, so we'll hold you reaching out. Mr. Dewey.
Knowing that other individuals are seeing, learn other course after. Is it helpful that happens and not helpful to be in the program, you also stay not dead?
Yeah, so- It has been, there are some, so Lane County Circuit Court also has an adult treatment court. And so sometimes people that have been screened for us end up maybe getting routed through that court instead because they have pending felony charges or the like. We have had at least one participant, due to his participation and success so far in our program, is receiving a better sentence at circuit court that doesn't involve prison time because he's participating fully in this program. So we do communicate with the coordinators over at circuit court. We also communicate with Eugene Municipal Court because individuals do often have in this area, even without the treatment court participation, cases happening in multiple places at the same time. So we do try to coordinate with them and let them know if someone's being successful or if they're not being successful.
Good thing is I was over there and judges know everybody over there. We're all a big family.
We saw a lot of them at our training that we just went to, the national conference in May that we went to. There were a lot of people there from Eugene Municipal Court and also Lane County Circuit Court and Lane County Parole and Probation. So we were always kind of mingling with them too.
Sir?
This is pretty impressive. But I agree with what they said. Every human being deserves more than one chance. Is there a something similar that's occurring at the juvenile level?
And can we talk about that a little bit? Is it having an impact? Is it,
It's a tough question because the data on juvenile arrest court, because you need to have juveniles become adults to understand if the data shows success. I don't have that answer, but I know there's a juvenile rap court, and I think it's rapid action plan court, maybe that's what. For someone's shaking their head. I know the answer to that question. The emergence from the rep court goes through, who does it go through?
I believe
JOIA?
they get better treatment, I'm not sure.
So it's through UIS or OIA most likely, but there is a,
similar model?
I think it's different.
Okay.
But there's definitely, like, when we went to treatment court training, we focused on our model, but there was a total juvenile model, there's a veterans court model, there's a mental health model, so we each have our expertise with that. I can't answer the question for that. Thanks, sorry.
What drugs are the predominant drugs that you're?
Right now, I think most of our participants are screened as having, we have, fentanyl use disorder, methamphetamine use disorder, and alcohol use disorder are the main big ones. For most of our participants, it's more than one.
And what's interesting with fentanyl, when I was prosecuting a lot more, people, you know, they didn't necessarily want to get off the drugs. But every time I speak to someone in custody, I ask them, they always want to be off fentanyl. It's different. These people, they want to change, so we want to give them more of an opportunity than was in the past. Yeah.
Another question. Is there MAT services for them in the Springfield jail, like the WellPath program?
The Springfield Jail currently will continue Medicare, so MAT is medication assisted treatment, so those are drugs like Suboxone and Vivitrol and other drugs, like prescription medications to help people stop use. And they will continue giving those medications if they're already prescribed at the Springfield Jail, but right now we don't have a program to start medication assisted treatment within the jail. That's something we might look at in the future.
Because the sentences aren't always long enough, and you need to monitor, and usually the misdemeanor sentences are 6 to 8 weeks, is quite a bit of time. And usually they're not that long. So if we had a longer sentence, like a DOC sentence, they'd probably do that, but it's not really our program yet. But we are working. Is there anybody online that had questions? Someone told me.
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
So after graduation, does Emergence still have the ability to maintain connection with those folks so that long-term, or is there resources available to them? Because that's a constant struggle to stay sober and maintained. What's the plan after graduation?
I think Mr. Jordan's gonna jump in and help us out with that.
So we do have a lot of graduates come by from time to time. Usually at that point, after the duration of treatment, they're fairly stable and do a lot of, like myself, 12-step meetings and, but we do have a lot of people coming from time to time. And something that Emergence has, which is, been about a year, we've had this engaged treatment where you don't even have to be a client or have any insurance. And from 9 to 12 on any given day, well, Monday through Friday, we have free treatment to anybody that wants to just come and drop off. And we do a smart, different smart, but smart recovery, which is a alternative to 12-step that focuses on cognitive behavioral therapy, which is a support group. And we do that Wednesday at 3, and we're going to start another one soon. So,
Thank you.
We always plan to be available. If you want to come back in, if you're still on probation, we'll figure out a way to do the treatment.
And one of the last favors, like phase 5, includes a lot of aftercare planning, continuity planning. What are you as a person going to do to help continue this new lifestyle and not come back to court?
What is the scalability of this program? You've got, limited number in this first round, but, given all the money, how many could you serve and what would that cost?
That is such an interesting question because I keep pushing the envelope. Partners over there are very unhappy with it. We're gonna keep going and we're gonna see what we can do because there's more grants out there. And the problem is the need is there. We can easily serve more and more people. We have to identify the right people, we have to identify the time. So at this time next year, I'll have your answer, because that's, I won't be able to make it any bigger, but we'll know.
The hope when this grant, the initial grant was written is that we could get to 25 to 30 at any given time. We're up to 14 already within less than 6 months, so I think that like I said, the need really is there. Of the 30 that we've screened, many of them did meet that high risk or high need. We haven't had anyone screened that didn't meet the high risk or high need criteria. They just had other reasons to be excluded. Either they failed to appear, they had violent offenses that because of our grant, we're not able to have them as participants, or they took a route through a different court. But we have not screened anyone so far that did not meet that level of need.
No, I'd like to hear a little bit more about the steps and because the barriers these people face or the challenges can get solved themselves, didn't get the court. So I just don't understand the opportunities they have to address some of those that allow them to keep meeting that schedule. Sometimes transportation is a problem, there's multiple issues. So I'm just trying to understand, since they have to meet all those standards and do that, what are the opportunities to but or I'm just trying to know how we keep them in the program with all of the.
That's a big multifaceted question. The number of different answers and different routes. Essentially, to sum it up as best as I can, we take each person where they're at. We want to eliminate barriers, we want to give them opportunities. They don't have transportation, we're gonna give them a bus pass. We're gonna focus with them. And the treatment says that they're ready to move on, we go to the next step. We want to work on their recovery, we want to work on their life skills, and then we'll work on the legal skills together as a team to make sure that they're getting back into the community with the best chance. That question is just, it's so many different routes, and what we're trying to tell you is that the team training has told us that we need to take everybody where they're at, focus on what their issues are and address that issue, move to the next issue.
And our partners on our team also have access to a lot of resources. So because we partner with Lake County Public Relations, they have access to, closed closets, bus passes through that program. Emergence offers a lot of access to services, helps individuals get into sober living situations if they're not already in one. And our case manager is helping people get access to, say, cell phones, because a lot of them don't have a current cell phone that they can use. So we're, every piece of the team helps put together a plan for that individual to meet whatever barriers they find.
We're also pretty lucky. We're also pretty lucky in our community. We have a center, so we sort of connect in Center, where people can drop in at any time and receive services during treatment, after treatment, and they provide a lot of those extra services also. But I was curious, I know that in Lake County Treatment Court, they provide mental health court, veterans court. Do you if you got all the funding that, you want to get, do you see Springfield expanding some of those other services to so?
With city commission, of course, I think that we would, we have a dearth of veterans. I think we only have 1 or 2 veterans so far. But I think it's gonna be tough to really target that population. Typically, the veteran population is associated with sexual violence. We're not allowed to take domestic violence cases per statute, but they would be associated with DUIs. So hopefully, as a veteran myself, and Mr. McCormick was a veteran, he's one of our peer support people, we would like to have that, but we have to build that incrementally. Emergence does deal with co-occurring, so if you have a mental health issue and a drug issue, we can do with that both ways. But the big picture is we want to have a big, thriving treatment court that takes in mental health and drug, takes in veterans, because we have 2 veterans now.
2, one that's going to be a participant and one that's just in the beginning stages of opting in.
We're not really differentiating, the emergency is differentiating in their treatment paths.
Yeah, having that Emergence as our partner has been really key, because they also have all of the programs for the Lake County Adult Treatment Court, which has been established for a couple decades now, 10 years, 15 years.
1995.
Yeah, so a while. And so those programs are accessible by our clients as well. So they attend the same groups, so they have different women's tracks, men's tracks, veterans, and a couple others as well. I would hope in the future that we might be able to do a mental health court We do have a significant population of individuals with co-occurring or severe mental health disorders. I, on the other half of my time, also monitor all of the cases that we send individuals to community restoration of the Oregon State Hospital. So there is quite a bit of overlap there as well.
I've had friends that obviously made bad choices when they're young and end up being felony charges. Do you have anything if they successfully complete the program that'll help them distinguish any of those type of marks on their backgrounds, it's easier to get a job and have features?
Just recently, the Oregon legislature, they really revamped 137-225, so expungement is drastically easier for people that have sex offenses or driving offenses. It will help them at the end, but the goal is to focus on treatment. If they start thinking about the end too early, we're not hitting the right things. But yes, at the end, we want to make sure they don't pay fines. We want to make sure that they know the route,
Is paid.
they know the path to have their matters expunged, that they can be expunged, and it's important to get off those Lane County mugshot wages. It's important to change your life. So that's something that we will get in that fifth phase to be able to get there. So that's that's part of that aftercare program.
So asking, because our next program in 2 weeks is going to be Opportunity Oregon, who works on job placements for people who were incarcerated. So I'm curious what this phase 4 getting a job partners that you work with or supports that you give to get people in employment.
Okay, well, I hate to do this again, no emergence. That is their expertise. So phase 4, you could speak, Mr. Trent.
That one's a little trickier as depending on someone's background or what their limitations are, it varies by person. What we try to do is at that point in the program, they will only be minimally attending treatment or have any ongoing significant engagements on our end. So I think at that point, they would be going to court once every 2 to 3 weeks. They would be finishing up group, which would be about once a week. And so at that point, it gives them the time to then focus on finding employment to further just establish a foundation for themselves. So that way, when they leave, they are much more prepared. We do try to partner with RCPC or the different other community groups that or sponsors as well to just try to help people find whatever it is that they're looking for in terms of employment. I know that many of our clients go through vocational rehab as well. And this is all with the idea that while they're with us, we're just helping make sure that they're doing okay in terms of sobriety, stability, consistency, and then supporting them as they go out to find whatever it is that they want to do for employment.
By that phase, our goal is to also help them not just have a job, but to find a career.
Mhm.
And so we'll start exploring what they have, interests they have, and what in the community we can connect them with training or employers that are that hire people with backgrounds, and we will let the employers know about incentives in the community for hiring individuals like that. So once we get closer to that phase, we'll start tracking down more community partners to help our individuals.
I also want to touch we have partnerships with Nancy Pants from Opportunity Oregon and Donovan at Workforce Oregon. Anybody that's on probation has access to the RRC sponsors, the resource center there, and our peer support. They all got jobs by navigating that as well. Plus, we encourage them to be honest, and it's kind of insane what honesty can do for you, right? Like the doors that it will open. So.
Yeah, and I think also one of the things that this doesn't touch on, but in the last phase, one of the requirements to graduate is called the Give Back Project. And so those participants will have to complete a community service project and then report back to the court and the other participants about what that was. I attended a few adult treatment court sessions where people were reporting out, and they went, volunteered at all sorts of different organizations, from, animal rescue organizations to Fruitville Lane County or other places. And so that also helps build connections for those individuals.
So Josh, kind of going back to, again, the homeschooling that you received. So here you have people coming. And you're trying to get jobs, but maybe the writing skills are as a far non-existent. Speaking, right on through. Where's the education component, or how does that come in? And kind of add some emergence on that as well.
We have our case manager at Emergence that will work with them through the whole GED process, guide them through the practice tests and all that, and we will, financially support them with the testing process and all that as well.
So, no, I thought somebody better.
So is everyone aware now, is Springfield involved in the criminal justice system, aware of how to refer somebody to the program? Like the attorneys and
Yeah, we've had several meetings. We do have an embedded liaison from the Springfield Police Department, Officer Cardwell. We've had discussions with the deputy chief. The jail staff is all aware. We have had discussions with the defense attorneys that handle our main set of cases. We've already received referrals from all of those places, and then also participants. We've had a few participants refer themselves because they want that level of engagement. They're ready for that.
So if you're referring to outside sources, we don't have that. You want to reach out to the prosecutor. The court has to remain neutral. So in case the prosecutor can pass on that message.
Yeah, and as like you said, we're trying to scale, then we'll probably put more information maybe down in the jail. Or on our kind of like court bulletin board, so that anybody coming through would be able to see that information and reach out if they have questions or want to be referred to that program.
Yeah.
So, as the judge is aware, I visited the treatment court very early on, and at the start of this, he was a little nervous when I showed up because it was a surprise, but it's more of a comment than a question. One, congratulations from the beginning of that to the progress I'm seeing today. This is really awesome. Thank you for sharing it with the community. I think it's really important that folks know how hard Springfield is working to support our community members and push them out of places they don't want to be in. So just congratulations and nice job.
Thank you. It's a team effort, and we have all our partners. We don't work without all of us. So we always have discussions, and what I might say at the end is what happens, but everybody has their own voice. We really want to hear what treatment, prosecutor, case managers, or that's how this program's going.
Let's say community member wanted to be involved or support the program. Is there an conduit for that?
It's a tough question because we're working on a 501(c)(3) option because to receive money is difficult. I think we can receive tangible.
They can receive money. So the city has set up a fund for us similar to the Chet Fund. If you're all aware of how the Chet Fund works. And those are donations to the police department that can be used to assist crime victims or people who need, veterinary care, and so we have a fund similar for that set up for adult treatment court. And yeah, just working with community partners. I've been in contact with the security managers at Target, hoping to build more of those relationships. But yes, that and we don't really have any volunteerism opportunities right now, but we'll also need connections to help have those give back projects or those community service projects. So if anybody has ideas on those or locations for those, we're gonna need those too in the near future.
Basically, we're reaching out slowly. Eventually, we'll have all partners get involved a little further. I've been working with the city manager, assistant city manager, and economic development advisor. I'll just start cold calling and saying, we donate. It's on our list.
Yeah.
It's getting a no, a few more people who can potentially reach us out and do that. Warm handoff.
There are a lot of ways to provide incentives that aren't necessarily gift cards or cash. And so for one of the trainings I went to was about different incentives. And one of the things is having like a resource closet. So if individuals need self-care items or laundry, soap or socks or clothes, then you have those things available and they have access to those if they're, participating in the program. So that's another Yeah.
So I have a follow-up question with the changes we might see in maybe one thing about goes into September. So I'm trying to understand, you talked about maybe 25 people. But let's say all of this works better. There's a lot of people out there we need to reach and help. So is the 25, that number, I mean, would it, if it exceeds that number, so we get further into the program and the changes and there's more demand, does that take another course or how do we kind of go to the next level?
I think the early option is that if we are able to keep exceeding, then we will expand our Thursday docket from currently 2 hours to 3 hours. And I'll work with our partners to make sure they're fairly compensated. But we are working on grants and really the key for us is money because some of the major components are probation and treatment. They have to be paid for their time. So once I find that, then we can really look at expanding, way that encourages the court to continue growing without overburdening ourselves.
And right now, the staff time is really built into our existing schedules. So we would need to have some expansion of staff to scale back past probably 25 or 30.
Famous Spiros come and save us.
Well, one last question before we wrap up here. If not, that's fine. I'm sure Aaron and the judge would be willing to stay another minute or two after if you do have another question. But please give a round of applause. We really appreciate it. And it's already been mentioned, but our program coming up on June 20th is Opportunity Oregon with Nancy Pants. We're excited to have her here talk kind of like another phase or leg of this whole effort. So we really appreciate her coming. We will be posting our August programs on our website once we get those finalized. Do we have a program in July yet?
I'll just say that we are canceling the July 4th program, so you guys can go
Thank you.
celebrate with your families instead of coming to City Club.
If you don't show up on July 4th, we won't be here in this room on that day. So June 20th, noon in this room, we'll be back with Opportunity Oregon. So thanks again. We really appreciate what a wonderful crowd today. Thank you.